please.
What would you picture when thinking about a vampire? Would you imagine fangs, decaying skin, and bloodshot eyes? Or would you think of something different? How has our conception of the vampire changed over the course of history? What has stayed and what's been left behind? This time on Mysteries Unsolved, we are dipping our toes into the pond called vampires. So how do vampires of the past compare to those we are familiar with in the modern day? In simplest terms, a vampire is a being akin to a reanimated corpse that preys on the living during the night. Vampires in folklore can be considered a worldwide phenomenon, as similar beings can be seen in cultures all over the world, with the name itself possibly being derived from the Slavic names for revenants, which are beings who return from the dead. These names, being vampire and upir/upir/upior, hold a lot in common with the modern English spellings and pronunciations for vampires we know today. In early depictions of vampires, before the Romantic movement of the late 18th and 19th centuries, they held little artistic currency and were simply part of folklore. But what they lacked in artistic representation didn't translate to the social agency they possessed. The religious climate of the time plays a great role in how vampires, and particularly the fear of the undead, persisted throughout the Middle Ages. The integration of pagan traditions into Christian customs, notably funerary customs, also allowed for these superstitions and fears to remain even in the post-medieval era. To see how the vampire myth affected the living, one must first look to death.
Burials of individuals who are believed to be vampires, or predicted to become one in death, are distinctive in how the deceased are handled. An archaeological site, Drosko 1, located in northwestern Poland and dating back to the medieval era, showcases many deviant burials and the precautions taken when dealing with the risk of vampires. These deviant burials often involve the mutilation of certain parts of the body. In particular, special treatments of the corpse were focused on the feet, hands, and mouth. As the feet were involved in moving the vampire, the hands enabled the vampire to seize its victims, and the mouth was associated with the consumption of blood. Other methods, such as items or apopotreics, helped to deter evil from disturbing the corpse and the potential reanimation. Sharp objects and tools prevented the deceased from leaving the grave. The scythe acted as a common preventative measure when considering reanimation. It was believed that if an individual were reanimated, the sickle or scythe would destroy the physical body when the vampire attempted to rise from the grave. This fear of the undead may have also been influenced by the Catholic Church. To encourage those to follow the example and rules of the Church, the vampire myth was kept alive, an embodiment of evil opposed to the Church. Vampires were eventually associated with the devil. Christian doctrines reinforced vampires as a creature of the devil and could be used to increase the strength of the church and society. Not only did the vampire have social agency in death and the fear of the living, but also in how society functioned and the Catholic Church's influence over said society. The vampire legend particularly plays on our fear and fascination with death and what comes after it, as those we once knew return in the form of the undead. From all over the globe and in many different cultures, evidence suggests that post-mortem precautions were taken to prevent such a thing from occurring, vampire or not. In Greek religion, the deceased was cleansed along with the mourners, and other offerings and sacrifices were given. While different when compared to the methods found in Poland and other parts of Europe, it's clear that precautions had to be taken when dealing with the dead. Vampires were a real threat to those living in the time they existed.
Do you have a name?
Lawrence IV, peasant.
I see, very fancy. You came about a while ago, yes?
Young bastard William has just cometh from Normandy. A fine wench did agree to meeteth me in the woods, as that madeth his way to London.
How wouldst I know if the lady was the vampire? Her fetches did hold nae weight. Oh, the lady was filled with pangs of hunger. The lady was lonely.
So you were turned?
Aye, 'tis been a lonely life. Can't leave it the estate in day. Night and dews nae company.
Oh, when did you turn to a bat?
What?
Okay, cannot turn into a bat. What do you think of the beautification of your kind?
I'm clearly the most wondrous example.
So what do you think of the other vampires gathered here tonight?
Those gents are a bunch of frothy, flat-mouthed harpies.
Why do vampires look and act the way they do? Frightening undead creatures who despise sunlight and drink blood. It may not all be of the imagination. Porphyria is a genetic disorder of the blood which affects its ability to produce the protein heme for hemoglobin. When looking at the possible extreme symptoms and side effects of porphyria, a definite connection between early vampires and the disease can be made. However, this connection can be a destructive one. Those with the disorder were prone to sensitivity of the skin when exposed to light due to painful lesions that would form on the skin, and in extreme cases could even lead to the breaking down of skin, such as in the face and hands. When taking this information into consideration, the vague image associated with early vampires might come into view. The upper lip and gums could recede, exposing more of the teeth, giving the illusion of fangs. One central trait of the vampire is an aversion to garlic. Comparing this to our example of porphyria, it has been theorized that garlic would have a negative effect on those with the disease, though this information is sparse. There are many substances in foods that may be capable of influencing heme synthesis in the liver, but such effects have been little studied, particularly in connection with human porphyrias, and there is no good basis for focusing on garlic. The vampiric aversion to garlic, while based in theory, may not hold much weight when brought into reality. While resemblances can be found, should they be perpetuated? It can be said that relating a disease to such a myth like that of the vampire could be damaging to how we then view said disease. Much between the two differs. No evidence suggests that those with porphyria crave or drink blood, nor would doing so alleviate any symptoms. But could its connection to the vampire myth possibly perpetuate this idea? Myth is influenced by reality, and reality can be influenced by myth. The medicalizing of the vampire myth has been incomplete and simplistic, and foreign to good historical scholarship. Porphyria, when considering its position with the vampire myth, isn't a good comparison to make. While traits can be shared and comparisons can be made, it may not always mean they should, and if they are, they must be made carefully and with consideration.
Is this the right?
Yeah.
That's a bit excessive.
It's a safety precaution. Okay, so who are you?
Jim?
Jim?
Yeah.
You know, they thought I was a vampire. I don't know what kind of disease it was, probably fatal. But they just kicked me out.
Your village?
Then I actually got turned into a fucking vampire. Some weird rich dude, he just came out of a bush.
What has your life been like since then?
I get by. I don't think this lifestyle suits me. I wasn't exactly planning on living for like a few centuries, maybe a few weeks. The fangs are cool. I don't miss taxes, you know. Vampires don't pay taxes. Oh, but I miss the sun, yeah. Yeah, I miss that.
So how do you feel about the other vampires?
They're weird. Like, especially that Lawrence guy. Like, familiar. Weirdly familiar.
I couldn't have guessed there were this many. What, we're all from the Middle Ages or something? Seriously, who are these people?
How do you feel about the beautification of your kind?
Beautification. My skin is rotting.
So you don't agree
Though
with...
I haven't seen my reflection in a few good centuries, how do I look?
Great!
Well, then I say they have good taste.
Alrighty, you're Wolfstain, correct?
That's me. I don't know why you brought me here, though.
You're a vampire, aren't you? You answered our call for vampires. What do you mean you don't know?
Oh, I thought that already happened. You know, my sense of time has been so warped these past 2 centuries. Maybe more, maybe less, I don't know.
Alright, let's just get to the questions.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself as a vampire?
Well, that's a bit of a tricky question. Unlike the other stellar specimens I see you've got here, I'm a 100% pureblood vampire. Been around since, 904. And I've always been a vampire, never one of those lowly humans. Oh, no offense.
None taken.
I can't remember much anymore. Anyways, I'm so over this whole immortal vampire thing. Living for this long takes a big toll on the old cranium.
Interesting. Can you tell us about some of your vampiric properties?
I can turn into a bat, and I need to drink human blood. I don't like the sun, and I'm super pale. I don't have a reflection.
Oh, and I also can't handle being near Carl Gibson. The fiend! I've known him since like 1300, and he's such an awful guy. Yeah.
Alright, let's stay on track, shall we? How have you been living this past century? There's been no new news regarding vampires, so you must have been laying low.
I gave up on all that usual vampiric stuff decades ago. I trained myself to not burn in the sun, but I do still need sunglasses because of my eyes. Cursed eyeballs.
Interesting. Alright, last question. How do you feel about our modern media's beautification of your kind?
Like those guys over there? Mind all that much. Positive representation in media makes me feel kind of good. Like, even, dare I say, a bit nubile.
Oh, okay, that's enough.
Alright, now that we've learned about our ancestral bloodsuckers, what really made us take this leap to our modern-day sexified version of vamps? I will very quickly recap what I'm certain you're already exhausted of hearing. Vampiric qualities include, but are not limited to, extremely pale skin, a weakness to garlic, a need to sustain themselves on human blood, the ability to turn into a bat, they can only enter your home if invited, yada yada. While a good amount of these can be seen in the most popular depiction of the vampire in our modern day, the novel and movie series Twilight by Stephenie Meyer, some of our more unlikable traits seen in the past have been removed. Vampires do not burn to death in the sun, they only sparkle. Garlic is not a weapon, and the whole hospitality shtick is totally gone. Why might this be? Well, in all honesty, it's likely a simple marketing tactic. Twilight is first and foremost a young adult romance novel, with the main clientele of those specific genres mostly being those looking to insert themselves into the lead's role, and specifically in Twilight's case, teenage girls, Twilight moms, and gay men. As Victor Fan speaks on in his article The Poetics of Addiction, Stardom, Feminized Spectatorship, and Interregional Business Relations in the Twilight series, the series uses lead actor Robert Pattinson's already well-established sexy factor to sell the series to those looking to fall in love with the idea of love for the first time. Twilight is by far the most recognized case for the trend of beautiful vampires in our popular culture out here in the West, though there's another piece of media which was released a year prior to the initial book release of Twilight that also sexified their bloodsuckers for a similar audience. Initially released in Japan as a manga in 2004, according to its Wikipedia page, Vampire Night by Matsuri Hino focuses on a girl surrounded by a harem made of vampires. This manga has a similar fan base, specifically teenage girls. As Vampire Night and Twilight illustrate for us, the beautification of these dangerous monsters was possibly just made to sell dreams and fantasies to their impressionable audiences. Now, how might Bram Stoker's Dracula be attached to the sort of view of the vampire being there for the audience to make connections to? According to Diana Vukovic and Liliana Pajovic-Dushovic, apologies for my pronunciation, the evolution of the vampire from Stoker's Dracula to Meyer's Twilight Saga, Dracula as a character can be interpreted as everything the Victorian audience would find horrifying or creepy, as he brings to England death, loss of souls, liberation of female sexuality, and, in general, a new type of woman who thinks by means of a male brain, syphilis, the East, and more. Though this may have been seen as something negative to the intended audience, our modern-day audience views the character's morals as some sort of twistedly seductive creature. This point of view may be viewed as evidence that vampires haven't just been their sexy version since the start of their resurgence in popular culture. What conclusions can we draw from the shift of the vampire being used to portray the audience's fears to the audience's self-insert boyfriends? Vampires have become widely sexy because of capitalism.
It's tacky. So, Blood Rain, how did you come to be?
Well, some gross idiot caught me off guard a few decades back. It was behind a grocery store. I apologized profusely, but I still have that jar of pickles he left behind.
Oh, so how's life been since then?
It's great. Actually, I became very nimble. Apparently, I'm supposed to burn in daylight or something, but as far as I can tell, I just get sparkly. So do you go out during the day?
Huh? No, never. It doesn't mask the aesthetic, you know?
Aesthetic?
Well, yeah, if you're gonna live forever, you're gonna have to look the part, right? It changes a lot.
So how do you view the beautification of your kind?
I think they should contact me, you know? If that's the case, I'd at least get some good representation, you know what I mean?
So you don't see the others as such?
Have you seen those people? Those aren't vampires, those are walking cadavers. Try putting them in this sick fit.
Okay, thank you for your input.
So, your name is Mikhaila Hyakuya, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Where are you from, Mika? I can call you Mika, right?
Sure, okay. Where I'm from is a bit complicated. I used to be a human who lived in the Hyakuya orphanage. Until the apocalypse, my family and I were taken from the orphanage to where all the vampires lived. We lived there as livestock, until I sacrificed myself for my last remaining family member. I miss him. I want him back.
Alright, well, I know what media you're from, but that works too. I've heard you're from something called Seraph of the End? Could you tell me more about the vampires?
Yeah, sure. Where I'm from, there's vampires with ranks. Kind of like a monarchy, we have a queen, nobles, and commoners. I'm a commoner myself, though I work directly under the queen, and she's the one who turned me. I hate her.
Okay, interesting. Now, when comparing yourself to, say, your classical counterpart, what would you say is the most glaring difference?
Honestly, we're not similar at all. We're more like, I'm not sure how to put this, killing machines. Our desire for human blood is really intense, even more so than the gruesome depictions of medieval vampires you humans are so fond of. We aren't really that averse to garlic, so this isn't doing much.
I see.
Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, anyways, we're more like superhumans who just happen to love human blood.
Okay, one more question, Mika. Would you consider your mainstream success could mainly be contributed to how you vampires are portrayed?
I guess, some people find us hot, some people find me hot, I don't know. Do you find me hot?
Alright, thanks, Mika. That about settles our interview. Now that we've met a handful of our blood-sucking buddies, we would be remiss to not talk about those characters in the media that we at Mysteries Unsolved would deem vampire adjacent.
Ah, looks like our new friends are drawing these vampire adjacent creatures. I'll let them show you what they look like while I give you a rundown on 3 of these characters. This fine specimen is Jeff the Killer, a popular creepypasta character created on the internet circa 2008. Jeff is a sickly pale fellow with a tendency to kill as many people as he can lay his eyes on. He himself has not been said to be vampiric, only meant to be a scary serial killer sort of character. However, one could draw parallels between the two. Oh, what? What was that? Pardon me, dear viewers, we must go check on our friend Mikhaila. Well, it seems as though our friend Bloodrain is not willing to cooperate for the rest of this segment. Apologies, those at home, but we must stop the show abruptly out of fear for the safety of both our crew and our invited guests. Thank you all for tuning in.
I did not kidnap the child.
You sure did. You know what you did. Really interesting thing about NFTs is that you actually can't copy them.
The thing is that you can't right-click on them.
Well, friends, it appears we're all together once more.
Once more? What do you mean once more? I've never seen you people in my life.
Ditto.
I don't know a V2 either. I don't associate with this new waft.
Oh! I'm putting two and two together now! Jim! Me and you were in that cricket competition in 1643, and we absolutely killed Gibson.
Yes, exactly. Lawrence IV was there too, but I try not to engage with him too much, if you know what I mean. Also, I think it was like the 1700s, not 1643 or whatever. But absolutely demolishing Gibson was for sure the highlight of the century.
Man, I would totally love to have the free time to go to a cricket competition. You old folks have way too much time on your hands.
What did thee just say it to me, thee cunt?
Oh, you did not just say that to me right now.
I'm the busiest sir you'll ever meet.
I can't believe you have the audacity to do that. I hate
me
you
spit
so
my
much.
drink on my own
I'm gonna
face.
pull your teeth out. I will rip your throat out.
Whoa, guys. Okay, we're all friends. Let's just calm down.
Kill the old one! Kill